Our houses are protected by the good Lord and a gun. And you might meet them both if you show up here, not welcome, son.
And my guest in studio this morning on Straight Talk is the candidate for public defender in the district, not just in Marshall County, Robert Dalton. And good morning, Squire Dalton. Good to have you here with us this morning.
Good morning.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. You and I had a chance to talk for a couple of minutes before. You've been in business. You've been practicing as a private attorney. What else? Let us hear all about yourself.
Well, I was raised here in Marshall County, and I went to Marshall County High School. And then after that, I went to the University of Tennessee. And then while I was at the University of Tennessee, I got the opportunity to go spend some time at Princeton, which is where I met my lovely wife. And
that's an area of the country that I'm also very familiar with.
It's
New Jersey.
a very beautiful, very green. It's called the Garden State for a very good reason.
Oh yeah, I used to live in the independent Republic of Northwestern New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Up in Sussex County, so I know the area well, and Route 1 and so forth, and Route 130, all of them up there. So,
right.
So what did you do after that?
Well, so then after I met my wife, we actually, her family's from Massachusetts. So we moved to, after I finished school, we moved to Boston for a while.
Okay.
And I worked for MetLife, where I managed $100 million block of small group health business. And I did that for 6 years. And Boston's a nice place.
How many winters did you endure up there?
Well, 6.
Okay.
6 of them, yeah. And after a while, you sort of, I think, actually get used to it, which seems incredible. The first winter you're up there, it seems like you could never possibly get used to it.
I don't think I could. The wind and the dampness up there during the winter, plus the cold. It's a tough place to live in the winter. And
the wind off the ocean just cuts right through you.
Oh, yeah.
And any skin that's exposed when you're out, because everyone walks in Boston.
Yeah.
So, when you come out of your house in the morning, you're going to walk to work, and the wind is going to cross your skin, and if you don't cover it with something, it will actually it will crack on you. Even just crossing Boylston Street,
that's sometimes
right.
you can get a nasty. Well, I guess it would be a freeze burn.
A freeze burn, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now. You said you grew up here. You went to Marshall County High School, and I understand that your father ran a barber shop here. Yeah, he still does actually. He's my father's Robert Dalton. He runs Dalton's Barbershop, which I always sort of credit with a lot of my education came from the barbershop. Really? Growing up in the barbershop. Really gives you. I'm picturing a scene of from Coming to America, the movie with Eddie Murphy. Right. Yeah. The barbershop is amazing. It's one of the few places left in our culture where people of completely different backgrounds, completely different political views, completely different, pretty much everything, come together in one place and talk about politics and religion and their daily lives and their families, and it really is an awesome environment. And I would encourage everybody, whether you need a haircut or not, go spend some time at the barbershop. A commercial for your father, right? That's right. Well, it's funny, and you're right, and I remember some of those experiences well. And one of my barbershops was a bookie joint too, so that made things really interesting. Now, you said you went to UT, you went to Princeton. What other educational experiences have you had? Well, I went to the National School of Law, and so I graduated at the top of my class there. Mm-hmm. And I think I was very fortunate there. The National School of Law gives you some unique opportunities. You have actual practicing attorneys there who are your professors, and you have, for example, my constitutional law class was taught by a Supreme Court justice. Okay. And that's very cool. That's not your everyday experience. I'm really proud of my time there, and I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to go to the National School of Law. All right. Now let's talk about the office for which you are running, and that is public defender. And as you know, that's not a position that we had in the Northeast to a great extent. Right. That's almost unique to Tennessee. What is the position of public defender?
Well, yeah, you're completely right about the Northeast thing. There are only 2 states that actually elect public defenders, and so one of the things throughout the campaign is that people keep saying, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was elected." But the public defender really is, to me, it's my favorite position in the entire judicial system, because the public defender's job is to get up every single day and to go into court and to explain to judges and juries why the Constitution was a good idea then and why it's a good idea now, and how we need to stop messing with it. And we need to stop making exceptions and saying, well, this is outdated. It's not. It's not outdated. It was a good idea, and it's still a good idea. And what worries me, I think, is that we've sort of come to a point now in the country where I think that if we don't start getting back to constitutional principles on all levels of government, all the way from our local government all the way up to Washington, D.C., if we don't start getting back to the Constitution, I'm afraid that we're going to lose the very freedoms that are really what have made our whole country such a great place to live.
I almost want to say that not only Democrats but Republicans have also been getting away from the Constitution gradually, and you seem to have a new grassroots effort to kind of bring us back in that direction, like you're saying.
I think that's true. I'm a strict constitutionalist myself, and I often tell people that gets me in a lot of trouble sometimes with both parties, frankly.
Sure.
Because if you really do apply the 10th Amendment, for example, you're going to run into some opposition in both parties. Same thing with the 4th Amendment, and frankly with the 8th, and not so much with the 2nd, although I'm a very strong supporter of the 2nd Amendment, which has sort of recently, caught me some flack, but I stand behind it. I mean, the 2nd Amendment is a vital part of our society, and we can't be backing up from it.
Our freedoms, of course, are very important, and sometimes we tend to forget them other than on Memorial Day and
That's
4th
right.
of July and Veterans Day and times like that. But, I've always thought the Constitution was kind of a pretty amazing document, in as much as in 240 some odd years, we've only changed it, 26 times, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that the changes that have been made are changes that have made people more free rather than less. But then what happens is that we have legislators or courts or whatever who want to carve out exceptions by things other than amendments. And, at this point,
And a lot of those amendments have been to explain other things within the Constitution.
Right. But hopefully at this point we're going to see the pendulum swing back toward freedom and away from and making all these exceptions, which really have been cutting into freedom.
And in this part of the world, in Middle Tennessee in particular, that's kind of a real popular issue right now.
Well, I hope so. I mean, I really hope that, like I said, I think the pendulum's swinging, but it's a matter of good people getting out and talking about the issue and raising awareness of the issue. And I have been so gratified and so blessed during this campaign that there have been so many people all over this district who have really started to understand and communicate with their neighbors about why the Constitution is so important and why we absolutely must defend it every day.
Okay, now, I kind of had the impression, perhaps incorrectly, that the public defender was someone who, up in the Northeast, for example, somebody who defends somebody who can't afford an attorney on their own.
That's absolutely right. That's their 6th Amendment responsibilities.
Okay.
So the public defender's office in the state of Tennessee serves 2 parallel roles. They're the chief constitutional defender and educator in the judicial district. And so part of that job is the defense of what we call indigent people, poor people, basically. And
but attorneys are expensive.
Attorneys are very expensive. Yeah. And so some people in our community can't afford a $250 lawyer because they have a traffic offense. But some people in our community, if let's say, for example, that, heaven forbid, someone invades your home and you are forced to shoot them in order to defend yourself and your family. Well, then you might find yourself charged with murder.
Sure.
In which case, you might not be able to afford a $50,000 or $100,000 lawyer. Well, that's a lot of people in our community can't afford a $100,000 lawyer. So the scope of the public defender's office really is a lot larger, I think, than most people think about. It really does cover a lot more people, and it directly covers a lot of our constitutional rights, especially Second Amendment rights and the Fourth Amendment rights.
All right. Now, we're going to take a minute for a word from Michael Wealth Management Group. My guest on Straight Talk today is Rob Dalton. He is our candidate. He is a candidate here for public defender, and we'll be talking more with him after this.
As corporations merge, consolidate, and downsize, employees often face tough decisions about what to do with their pensions or 401ks. The choice you make can have serious implications on your
Candidate for public defender Rob Dalton, and getting back to you, Rob, you defend essentially then not just the Constitution and constitutional rights, but the rights of individuals. So that would be everybody from the elderly down to children, right?
That's absolutely true. Yeah. One of the things that we've really, in my own office, that we've really focused on is the defense of juveniles. Too often we see situations where juvenile cases are not treated with the seriousness which they should be. Juvenile convictions can be really serious for not just for the juvenile involved, but for the whole community. There are a lot of juvenile convictions now that will disqualify you from receiving federal financial aid, which for our kids around here means that a lot of them simply won't be able to attend university.
Right. It'll also affect their job life later on.
Absolutely. And the long-term prospects for our community as a result are diminished, because if they had simply received competent defense in the first place, then they wouldn't be in that position. And so it's vital to our whole community and the economic life of our community that our young people are given the opportunities to make mistakes and then recover from them.
All right. What qualifies you to be public defender, and what made you decide to run for this office?
Well, in terms of qualifications, of course, I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I have had quite a bit of success as a criminal defense attorney. I'm a strict constitutionalist. For me, that's pretty much a litmus test for a public defender, to be frank with you. The job of the public defender is to get up every day and to go into court and to tell people exactly why the Constitution is a good idea. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, you really shouldn't hold that job if you don't think it's a good idea. And I have had quite a lot of success, but the success that we have in our individual cases is very limited in terms of those individual clients. Now, of course, like for example, some of our cases have changed state law and have set precedents that really rippled across the legal system. But
and the legal system relies on precedents as well as tenets of law as well. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But in those cases, it really only affects those individual clients. And so it's become obvious at this point that if we're really going to expand the scope of constitutional defense and really raise the bar of constitutional defense in our area, that we're going to have to do that through the public defender's office.
All right. Now, I understand you've got some thoughts on veterans and how the court should be serving veterans and veterans issues.
Well, veterans have unique issues. In particular, they have unique mental health issues that we really don't see in any other cases. And not only do they have unique mental health issues, but they have substantial, well-documented mental health issues. In most of these cases, veterans that we would see in our office, especially ones that might be charged with violent crimes, they have bankers' boxes full of medical records that come from the VA. And you absolutely must have an integrated Veterans Defense Program that incorporates working closely with the VA and working closely with those professionals that can present that evidence to the court. Otherwise, what you risk is people come into court, judges and juries, and they look at this man and they say, well, he's a bad guy. He did something in this case that was violent or terrible. Without the context of knowing where he's been to, what he's been through, what has happened to him, you realize he's not a bad guy. He's having mental health problems. He doesn't need to be in jail. He needs to be at the VA in treatment. But you must tell that story to judges and juries, or they simply won't be able to make good decisions. You can't adjudicate
someone properly without having all of those background facts.
Absolutely.
All right, very, very good. Why are you the best choice for this position in this election?
Well, As I said, I'm a strict constitutionalist, and I live that every day. The success that I've had as an attorney up to this point is largely due to the fact that I get up every morning and I not just work hard, but I go in and I work and I work with compassion. And I think that's one of the things we were talking about at the barbershop earlier. One of the things that comes out of the barbershop is that you really see on a daily basis that it doesn't matter what someone's station is in life, it doesn't matter what their job is, it doesn't matter what their family is. Everyone is deserving of basic respect and compassion, and it doesn't matter what is currently happening to them. It doesn't matter what they're currently accused of. What is important is that they are a person and they deserve to be treated fairly, and they deserve to be treated fairly by the judicial system. And so what's really motivated my practice and has really motivated my run for this office is that I am personally invested in making sure that people are treated fairly. And all too often, unfortunately, that doesn't happen. In which case, you get sort of upset, and I have to go into court and and be a little upset about that.
And come straighten everybody out.
Well, I don't know about everybody, but certainly some people. But you have to, at least 50% of criminal defense, at least 50% of defending the Constitution is simply refusing to say, well, that's wrong, but I'm not going to fight it. Well, we're not doing that. We're setting a new bar in the 17th Judicial District. We're saying if it's wrong, then we're going to go fight it. We're going to go out there every day, and we're going to make sure that the right thing is being done, and we're going to make sure that people are being treated fairly every single day.
Now, you're running in the 17th Judicial District. What area does that cover? It's not just Marshall County.
No, it is a gigantic area, as we've been learning for all these months of the campaign. Marshall, Lincoln, Bedford, and Moore counties. It essentially starts at Culleoka and goes to Tullahoma.
Okay.
It's a large, large area.
All right. We've got about 30 seconds here. What do you want to say to our listeners and to the electorate?
Well,
what's one last message?
Well, I'd like to ask them all for their vote, and more than that, though, I would like to thank them. The people of this district have been absolutely so welcoming, and like I said before, I have been so gratified and so blessed to find out that so many people in this district care so much about the Constitution.
Rob Dalton, a candidate for public defender in the 17th Judicial District. Early voting is underway now, and Election Day is
August 7th.
It's August 7th. So, and as we've set up in Chicago and with other candidates that we've spoken to here in the studio, vote early and vote often. Rob Dalton, thank you very, very much for joining us on Straight Talk this morning.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
Our houses are protected by the good Lord and a gun, and you might meet them both if you show up here, not welcome, son.